Coming up on Mountain News this morning, if your child plays football, it's important to know officials are stressing the importance of concussion protocol after 2 football-related deaths in the southeast. Plus, Congressman Hal Rogers was in Appalachia yesterday to share his hopes for what's next for Eastern Kentuckians.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. I'm Madison Carmouche. We are right at 6 o'clock this Wednesday morning, and I think we are all ready for the hot to go. But let's send it over to meteorologist Tim Drawbridge for a look at our first alert weather day forecast.
I hope we can get the humidity out of here too, right? We've got a break in the pattern that is upcoming, Madison. Give me 1 second. Clicker, computer, we'll talk. All right, yes. The heat and the humidity will finally completely break as we head through this coming weekend. But until then, we're in first alert mode because the combination of the heat and humidity, 3-digit feels like heat index values as we head through the next several days. All right, 63, little fog, little haze developing outside our door here in Hazard. And yes, not a widespread problem. Well, you will run into some banks of fog here as you leave southeastern Kentucky and head into northern Tennessee. Temperature-wise, 60s for most of us right now. Cool spot over toward Clintonwood at 60. One of the warm spots is Monticello, sitting at 71. Nothing going on locally. Nothing will be going on for most of us today, minus that risk of a mid to late afternoon shower or thunder shower around I-64 points north, again mid to late afternoon. In the meantime, after the low clouds and fog completely burn off, we'll see a lot of sunshine today and a forecast high up, not to 95, we'll make the adjustment, to 94 this afternoon. More about the ARH First Alert 7-day forecast coming up in a few moments. Madison?
All right, Tim, thank you. Yesterday was a sad day of remembrance at Bluegrass Airport in Lexington. More than 18 years ago, the pilot of Comair Flight 5191 took off on the wrong runway and crashed, killing 49 people on board. The Arboretum, located across from Kroger Field in Lexington, is host to a 17-foot-tall memorial sculpture that honors all 49 victims on board. A couple who walked by the sculpture talked about the anniversary.
I remember I was working up at UK Hospital and remember a lot of chaos and kind of preparing for what could be a really significant casualty event, and it didn't end up. It was tragic that we didn't have as much work to be able to do.
Co-pilot Jim Polhinky was piloting the plane at the time of the crash and was the only survivor. The crash caused Bluegrass Airport to make changes so short runways no longer intersect with longer runways. The CDC has started the Heads Up campaign to help doctors, school professionals, athletic trainers to diagnose and manage concussions. Just last week, a West Virginia football player died after suffering a head injury during practice. An Alabama high school football player also died recently after suffering a head injury. One athletic trainer with UK says major advances in technology have been making a difference out on the field.
There's a very significant consequence of what's called second impact syndrome. Returning an athlete when they're still in an inflammatory recovery stage on the brain, and they could sustain a second impact, is associated with really high rates of very serious consequences and a high rate of fatalities.
Dr. Gribble says preseason cognitive screenings can help garner a baseline. It will also help medical professionals track athletes throughout the season. Congressman Hal Rogers spent yesterday afternoon with leaders in the Big Sandy region, sharing updates from Washington and plans for the future. WYMT's Buddy Forbes shares highlights from Rogers' visit to Floyd County.
Congressman Hal Rogers says Eastern Kentucky is blessed with leaders who are working to invest, invigorate, and industrialize.
We're maintaining an even keel as we continue our work to recruit more industry and jobs to our region, control the flooding that destroys us every year, it seems, and perfecting our homeland security.
The congressman spoke to community leaders at the Big Sandy Area Development District Tuesday, with topics ranging from expanding the roads that bring people to the mountains to rebuilding and re-strengthening the region after the July 2022 flood.
So that flood relief and hopefully preventing future flooding is consuming a lot of our attention.
Rogers underlined efforts to implement new flood prevention measures, shared his hopes to help develop the region, and cited a need for more high-tech communication investments for area first responders.
I want to be sure that they have all of the equipment that they need in their job, because they're protecting us.
He says he has worked to earmark funding to support those efforts, among other things, as part of a nearly $150 million request in next year's budget.
So we have now passed all 12 of those funding bills through the House Appropriations Committee and headed toward the floor of the House.
Saying no matter how hectic things are at the nation's capital, the region has people fighting for its future. In Floyd County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
Rogers said the Big Sandy Area Development District is doing important work, bringing area leaders to the table to collaborate and strengthen the region. So updating them on work in Washington was crucial.
Quick weather update here as we approach 6:06. A lot of clear skies across eastern and southern Kentucky. Just the fire drill. We know what that means this time of the morning. Some low clouds, some fog trying to develop. It's up toward I-64 from Lexington to Moorhead to Ashland, including Louisa and Wayne, that we will run the risk of seeing a shower or thunder shower pop up mid to late afternoon. Otherwise, the rest of us are going to be dry. So low clouds and fog right now in a few locations. 63. We end up warming up very quickly from the mid-60s into the mid-80s by the time we get into the lunch hour. We'll top out at 94 in Hazard this afternoon. More about the ARH First Alert 7-day forecast in just a few minutes. Madison.
All right, Tim, thank you. Staff and volunteers with Christian Appalachian Project celebrated its 60th year as an organization. WYMT's Chandler Wilcox tells us how the nonprofit has impacted Eastern Kentucky.
60 years in, Christian Appalachian Project continues to serve the mountains.
We've just been blessed with donors that support us, that we can add extra services that we identify in the area.
Christian Appalachian Project offers several services, including home repairs. Staff say they have helped repair approximately 116 homes since the July 2022 flood.
We've been concentrating on helping folks get back in their homes, doing repairs, disaster relief recovery. We actually just completed over the last couple months all the programs, the jobs that we had opened.
Morrow says a lot of those repairs are done with the hands of volunteers.
Either that being the college kids that come and work during WorkFest time, or in our church groups and other organizations. We have a lot of companies that we partner with, and they send their employees.
Their mission in that work is building hope and transforming lives through God's love.
Being able to share the gospel, talk about my faith, and show that through compassion. That's what we're doing here at CAP, is just trying to show Christ's love.
Staff say they are always looking for more volunteers to help in their efforts. In Floyd County, Chandler Wilcox, WYMT Mountain News.
Staff say the Christian Appalachian Project serves parts of each state in the Appalachian region. Thanks for joining us on Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Just ahead, former President Trump has been hit with a new indictment on the same election interference charges as before.